I've now talked about over 30 underrated dumb moves in Survivor history, but I've yet to broach the subject for Big Brother. With over 20 years and thousands of days in the house to sift through, I figure, why not pick out a few and give them a moment in the sun too? Internet, my name is Peridiam, and welcome to 5 times Big Brother players made underrated dumb moves. And unlike Survivor, there will never be a 2.0 version of this video because there happen to only be 5 dumb moves ever made inside the Big Brother house. Anyway, let's start with a really big, colossally bad move that I know super fans are gonna say isn't really underrated, but I think given the situation and just how ruinous this move was, it needs to be mentioned at the forefront of this video. What's the move? Danielle and Jason kept Lisa in the game over Amy at the final 4 of Big Brother 3. Had they kept Amy, I think it's guaranteed one of them is the winner. That jury did not love Amy. Even though Danielle had Roddy rallying against her, I can't see enough of those jurors letting Amy take the win over her, given Amy was comically aloof, not strategic, and kind of petty at times too. She wasn't a saint any more than Danielle, and when you compare Amy's odds of winning to Lisa, who was loved by the jury, who had Roddy, Eric, Kiara, Tanya, Marcellus, all going to bat for her, I don't know. It's just tough to not include this move, how Jason and Danielle fumbled at the 1-yard line, how they misread the final memo on what they needed to do to win. They kept Lisa because they believed she deserved the final 3 more, and yeah, that's probably true. Because they would have hated to lose to Amy in the off chance that happened, which, hey, I understand. Because Lisa was a key component to their numbers in the second half of the season, and she deserved her merit. She was loyal. She was an ally. Amy was just kind of there. She already got voted out. Which, by the way, is exactly why Amy should have stayed. Even if Amy wins the final HOH, she probably still loses to Jason or Danielle, and that's all that should have mattered. Danielle and Jason recognized this, but still decided to roll the dice with Lisa anyway, and it didn't pan out. It's one of the worst game-ending moves in Big Brother history, and for that, I've got it in this video. And as a big fan of the two of them, this pill is really tough to swallow.
I have to look at Amy and Lisa and decide who Danielle and I have a better chance of winning that HOH against. As the days go on, get a little more worried because I think that Lisa is an amazing competitor in this game. It's almost a compliment to whoever leaves. It means that you were looked at as a great threat.
That's the only person I think I can probably beat is Amy. If they gave Amy the 500 G's over me.
I feel like if Amy went to the end, I feel like any of the 3, Lisa, Danielle, or myself, would win it, just because I don't know that any of the evicted house guests would give the game to Amy. There's 6 days, so no matter what happens, I'll see you guys in 6 days. And with that being said, I vote to evict you, Amy.
For the second move, let's talk about Danielle. Donato, sorry, not Reyes, from Big Brother 8. You know the expression, don't count your chickens before they hatch? Well, I gotta say, that's pretty sage advice that Danielle should have leaned on for what's about to go down at the final 10. Because Danielle wanted to backdoor Eric, the guy who was a rat in their alliance, lying about his vote for several weeks now and finally getting smoked out. Danielle knew now she couldn't trust him, and she wanted to evict him next. And so, when she won the HOH competition, her plan was set in motion. The plan was to backdoor Eric. In other words, she wasn't going to nominate him initially, but was going to rely on the veto being used so she could put Eric up on the block later in the week. Now, you're probably wondering why she didn't just nominate him in the first place. Why go through the hoops with the backdoor when she could just put him up? The reason was because, first of all, he could have won the veto and that would have ruined the plan, but also because she was in a 7-person alliance with Eric and didn't want to spook all of them with a betrayal. She wanted to make sure if she could guarantee that Eric would stay on the block post-veto, she would pull the trigger. But if he won the veto or someone wanted to save him, he had a lot of allies. It's a little more complicated. If you take a shot at the king, you better not miss. She didn't want to miss. And then we get to the problem with all of this, and that is that by not nominating Eric and one of his allies from the jump, at the nomination ceremony, she made the backdoor plan nearly impossible to pull off. Spoilers, Eric survives the attempted backdoor, one of only 2 people in BB history to do so, and he didn't play in the veto, unlike Vanessa on BB17. And it's all because Danielle makes a bad move with her nominations. Danielle needs 4 votes out of 7 to evict Eric. Eric is in a big alliance of 7, all of which want to keep him other than Danielle herself and her father, Dick. So Eric then has 4 allies with him. Meanwhile, Zach, Kale, and Jen were on the outs, and Danielle decides to nominate Kale and Jen as pawns. Neither are her target. But that's going to be the problem now, even if Eric touches the block. When Eric is nominated at the veto ceremony, he still has Jessica, Dustin, Amber, and Jamaica ready to save him, and they all do. Meanwhile, Danielle only had Dick, Zach, and Jen on her side. And to make matters worse, before the nominations, Danielle had patched up some of her relationship with Jen to the point where Jen was on her side. And she got Kale on her side too by being okay with being a pawn. Kale was in on all of this. And Zach was in La La Land ready to find another raft to sink. Had Danielle nominated any 2 players in Eric's now 5-person alliance, she could get Eric out. But instead, Jessica duped her, Eric's showmance, into believing she was with Dick and Danielle. Danielle counted her votes before they were cast, and she got it all wrong. The lesson here? Don't get fancy when threading the needle with the numbers. Oh yeah, never mind Dick was putting Eric on blast in front of their alliance. Tanking their social game and alienating half the house is not a good way to accrue numbers when the margin is this thin.
For 2 weeks now, there's been a leak in the group. Nobody knew who it was. Everyone was trying to blame Nick for it. I knew it wasn't Nick. And, you know, as soon as I saw the banner and saw Eric's name on it, it all fell into place.
If you take yourself off, no matter what, can I guarantee that you'll vote to keep Kale?
Yes.
I can guarantee you 100% that I'm not gonna go back on my word and Kale will stay in the house.
That has us banging at each other, trying to slit each other's throats. That is the one that did all of this.
If they win the power of veto, you're going up.
There's a good chance it's going to be me on the block.
Why?
They turned against Dick and Danielle.
If you go up, we're staying in this house and it's a downright bloodbath.
And with all of that said, I'm sorry, but Eric, I choose to nominate you.
By a vote of 4 to 3, Eric, you are safe. Kale, you've been evicted from the Big Brother house.
And you know what? Since we're talking about Danielle, which Danielle again? I figure it's only fitting we include another moment involving her, Donato, albeit this time she's not the one making the error. I have talked about this move recently in another video, but it's gotta be said again because it's such a low-key bad move that totally didn't need to happen. It's from Big Brother 13 when Jeff loses it on Shelly at the final 8 after Shelly gets exposed for double dealing and attempting to keep Danielle in the game. Jeff was eager to evict Danielle and just needed 3 votes out of the 5. And he already had Jordan and Rachel. He expected to have Shelly, given Shelly was working with him all season, but in this moment, Shelly was ready to make a move and keep bigger shields in the game. Danielle was said shield, and I get why Shelly wanted her to stay in the game. Shelly then approaches Adam into making this big move to blindside the vet players and evict Kalia over Danielle. Adam, however, was just kind of coasting up to this point, hanging out with no real direction, and Shelly wanted to whip him into action. The 2 of them vote out Kalia, keep Danielle, and let the chips fall where they may afterward. Tomorrow we make our apologies. Tonight we make our move. Except in all of the infinite wisdom here, Adam decides, you know what? Nah, not interested. I don't really want to play the game. Squeals to Jeff, who needs win equity? And while that's definitely an underrated bad move from Adam, because, I mean, shit, the guy had no win equity all season, I gotta say, what happens next is so unnecessary. Jeff confronts Shelly about her alleged double dealing, and how does he react? He loses his cool. He burns a bridge. Despite knowingly now having 3 votes with Adam on board, Jeff gets loud and pissed off and wants Shelly out next. And for what? Because she wanted to go against her wishes in a game with only 1 winner? Jeff already had a major advantage being a vet, playing alongside his girlfriend, but I guess Shelly not acting as his puppet all season was just not enough. Jeff, let the woman breathe for a minute, come on. And then, in the double eviction later that night, Jeff needed Shelly's vote to stay in the game, and he didn't get it. He was a goner. Perhaps if he had more grace, more foresight, more tact, more understanding into how every vote matters, kind of like with Danielle on BB-8, this could have been a very different story with Shelley keeping him. But instead, it was karma that bit him in the butt for how poorly he managed that relationship when there was everything to gain by just showing kindness.
Adam doesn't use Adam's brain. Adam uses Jeff's brain. This doofus Adam is the deciding vote.
I'm heartbroken a little bit because I talk night in and night out with my heart to Shelley. This is how she repays me. She acts like she's 100% on Jordan and I's side, but is she really?
When I saw Jeff acting a little bit weird, I thought that someone had spilled the beans about me trying to get Danielle to stay in the house.
It's like, you're sticking with, I'm like, I'm voting Danielle out.
See? Why were you in on a plan? You were gonna vote to keep her? Specifically.
Jeff, there's nothing wrong with being with people 100%. You look at all your options.
I know, you have a lot of options, Shelley. You have options with everybody in this house.
You're so funny, Jeff.
I'm so funny. I get my hands dirty with a good move.
You get your hands.
I'm the one every week that I'm like, listen, we're gonna win. It's us, it's us. And you're doing plans behind my back?
Jeff, every person in here is doing plans behind your back. Jeff, I think right now you're acting like about a 5-year-old.
5-year-olds run back and forth. I'm straight up.
We made a discussion, you included, to keep Danny in for the fact that everyone's talking about you guys getting to the end and no one having a chance.
But obviously you're exploring other options because you think the grass is greener. No matter who wins, Shelley, you're good.
Jeff, I can explore whatever I want. If that's what you think, that's fine.
Go ahead.
All right, I'm done with you.
Gonna stick to my word. Jeff, Rachel, I'm nominating you guys for this.
It's what Danielle would have wanted for me not to use this veto this week. So, good luck, guys.
I need Shelley's vote. What? I need Shelley's vote. Honestly, you're gonna vote now.
Jeff, come on. There is no...
Dude, vote for me, dude, because she's gonna vote.
That's why. Okay.
Well, give me another chance, Shell. Give me another chance, Shell. Everything I did for you.
I'm sorry, Jeff. But you stand between this for my family.
This fourth underrated dumb move is a small one, but I've always wanted to mention it because on the surface, it's kind of harmless and innocuous, but it's also still not good. At the Final Four of Big Brother 21, we see Jackson is the outgoing HOH and that Holly, Cliff, and Nicole were fighting for the coveted Final Four HOH, a guaranteed spot in the Final Three. The competition was endurance, and I think on paper, Holly takes this over Cliff and Nicole any day of the week. But that's not what we saw. Instead, Holly threw the competition to let Nicole win HOH, and this move by her was low-key not good. Conversely, it was genius by Jackson, who got Holly to drop out and let Nicole win. And to understand why Holly chose to do this bad move, it needs to be understood that in the round prior, at the Final Five, Cliff and Nicole made a deal with Jackson that they would keep Holly in the game, take her to the Final Four over Tommy, and if they did so, Jackson promised that he would get Holly to drop out of the HOH and let either Cliff or Nicole take it. Jackson also made a deal with Cliff that he would take Cliff to the Final Two, although that was a lie, and Cliff unfortunately bought into it. And so if you look at the dynamics of this Final Four and you make a mental map, you look at all the potential outcomes, what you see is that if Nicole is the HOH, which was the deal, then if Nicole won the Final Four veto, Cliff would cast the sole vote and evict Holly. If Cliff won the final veto on his own, he would still evict Holly. And technically, if Jackson were sticking to his word, if even he won the final veto, he would potentially evict Holly. At best, by throwing the Final Four HOH, Holly had a 50% chance of getting evicted once she dropped from the competition. On the flip side, had she won the HOH, she is guaranteed Final Three no matter what, and that's more important than working for Jackson's agenda. And to realize just how bad this was for Holly, you also need to look at it from Jackson's perspective. There's a reason Jackson wanted Nicole to be the HOH and not Cliff, because he cut a deal with Cliff that Holly did not. If, say, Cliff was the HOH and Nicole had the veto, guess who's going there? If Holly's the HOH and Nicole is the veto, again, guess who's going there? not Holly. And what this means is that Holly was screwing herself by sticking to her word, when in fact Cliff and Nicole were pining all the previous week about whether they should stick to their word in keeping Holly over Tommy. If I were her, all bets would be off at that point. Which, by the way, is the mentality Jackson had going into the Final Four, which is why I give him a lot of credit for this move here and think it was actually quite genius. He was lying and didn't care. Holly, meanwhile, was a step behind, and by throwing that HOH comp, she dramatically increased her odds of getting evicted when she could have easily done the opposite.
I'll agree to just about anything under the sun just to keep Holly in this house. But don't think for a second that I haven't forgotten the reasons why we're in this position.
I know people like Mickey. If he makes that kind of swear, I believe he will hold to it. And if he doesn't, then I will pay the price, okay? You gotta throw the HOH and throw the veto. I gave you my word that I would.
So if Holly doesn't keep her into the deal and throw this HOH, then Holly's safe. I'm the only one that's not.
You throwing it or not?
Be up there all. I'm at the point in the game where nobody should be throwing comps, and I don't want to throw a comp. I feel nauseous.
Being completely honest, I don't see why she would honor the deal.
I could seriously hang on this all night.
Wait, are you guys serious?
You just won.
I literally just handed Nicole a spot in the top 3 on a silver tray.
It helps my game that Holly's not HOH. And there's no confetti for 4th place. The boy wants confetti.
Last and least, because there's only 5 dumb moves in Big Brother history, obviously, we have the critical error by Tyler in Big Brother 20 when he throws the veto at the Final Four. Also when he evicts Brett over Casey at the Final 6, but that's another story for a different video. And I'll say, this is more of a case similar to what we just talked about with Holly, which is a wild comparison, Tyler and Holly, of being too loyal for your own good. Tyler had a day one alliance called Coast to Coast with Casey that he was loyal to the soil with all season. He wanted that storybook ending of them both reaching the Final 2 and duking it out for the title and the money. And at the Final Four, the guy who was slated to go next, JC, won the HOH out of left field. The guy had yet to win a comp all season, and then he goes and he does this? Fine, JC, you know what? Enjoy your victory. Tyler is now in a pickle because JC is safe, meaning, from his perspective, either Casey or Angela is going next. And he was in a serious showmance with Angela for half the season and really liked her. He wanted to pursue a relationship with her after the show, which he did. And so when confronted with the dilemma of being wedged between a rock and a hard place, between fighting for Angela to stay or Casey to stay, Tyler chose not to pick a side. Instead of trying to win the veto and take matters into his own hands, he went the opposite route and threw the veto so the 2 women could figure it out themselves. But the massive problem here, and why Tyler is in this video, kind of similar to Danielle and Jason with Amy and Lisa, is that one of these women was quite easy to beat in the Final 2, while the other was gonna be the opposite. Angela was furniture. She was ice cold at times, and the jury wasn't warming up to her at all. Heck, Scotty came back and said this was the case. Tyler easily beats her in the Final 2, and given she was no slouch at competitions, I suspect either of them beat JC at the Final 3 HOH and just take each other. Which means Tyler likely wins if Casey is evicted at the Final 4, as I think he even beats JC in front of the jury. But instead of going for the jugular and seizing the crown, he limps in the shadow, throws the veto, lets Casey take the victory, and then she evicts Angela. Tyler goes on to lose in a close 5-4 vote next to Casey at the Final 2, but it never needed to be this close, and even if he lost to Casey at the Final 4 veto, at least he can say he tried everything in his power. But in this case, he didn't. And you know what? Even if he beats Casey in a 5-4 vote, I still don't like this move here, and that's why I'm talking about him in this video. When you're this close to winning the game, you gotta go for the kill.
The most difficult decision I'll ever have to make in this game, and that's picking between Casey and Angela.
Tyler has been eliminated.
So I'll get my second strike, and I'm officially out of this competition. I no longer control my own destiny, and it is totally out of my hands. Angela leaves, that sucks. Casey deserves to be in the Final 3, and I'm happy. I'm just sad. It just sucks.
And that's it. Those are 5 underrated dumb moves by Big Brother players. The only 5, of course. Definitely never getting another version of this topic. But in the event there may be more moves out there that you'd want me to explore, feel free to let me know. And let me know what you think about these 5. A big thank you to my patrons for all your support, for clearly not being in this 5 with your moves. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to maybe not yell at potential votes that are up for grabs all while you try to backdoor the best player in the house on your way out. And I'll see you in the next one, once I do just that. Hey, anyone seen the frying pans?
Go and plead your case to everyone in the house and let them make the decision.
That's right, they will.
They will. Happy
Now
New Year.
you do your magic and you persuade anyone and everyone as you possibly can. You're going up, bitch.
I'm not gonna sit here and fight at you.
No, you're just gonna sit there and shake like a leaf. You're going up, bitch.
Danielle, you're allowing him to make a very bad decision.
She is a very smart girl, all on her own. She needs no help from me. She's made that very clear.
Kale, if you're saying that something went really, really wrong, but I don't think so. I expect you still to be here.